Hello and welcome to the MLS Soccer Show, the first ever edition of this MLS-centric podcast. The podcast is with Cal and Crean. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tim Crean. With me, soon to be as always, is Mike Calendrillo. Mike, how you doing?
So good. So happy to be here with you, Tim. It's going to be fantastic. We've got so much good MLS stuff to talk about. It's going to be a fun ride, so giddy up.
Excellent. We also have Mr. Producer, our trusty producer, who is becoming more and more of an MLS fan every day, Andrew Kula. Andrew, say hello.
Hey guys, the Major League Soccer show. So nice we say it twice. Real excited.
Absolutely. We really want to drive that soccer piece home so people don't think we're talking about Major League Baseball or some other sort of soccer. We're really trying to drive that home here. So real quick, let's go over a little bit of how we're going to do this show. This last week was the opening weekend of the 2022 MLS season, the 27th season in MLS history. We're going to start off with our segment where we recap the top games of the week. We'll simply call that the games of the week. Once we do that, we'll add some hot takes on some other games, and we'll have some fun with what happened in the world of MLS. The first game that we're going to start with this week is Orlando City 2, Montreal 0. Mike is going to kick us off with this game because, of course, Orlando City is his local club, his favorite team. I'm sure he's got a ton of thoughts on what went down in Orlando. Mike, tell us about this game.
I do. It was good. It was a good start. It wasn't a fantastic game by all accounts, but it was strong. Thankfully, Orlando City's now 2-0-6. That's a lot of draws on opening day since joining the MLS. But there's no losses, so that's a win. This was a big first match. It's the first time since opening their stadium where actually I was part of the club. I worked for them during that 2017 season, so I was there sitting on the 18-yard line, watching Andrea Pirlo take corner kicks. It was It was awesome. I mean, it was just it was a dream come true. But back to this, I'm gonna get into it first. I'm gonna look at the bad because there wasn't a whole lot of bad, at least for Orlando City. Not a lot to complain about. The one thing I will say is that they are notoriously slow starters. It doesn't matter what gaffer. That's for Andrew. What gaffer is in charge? It took them 20 minutes to get their first shot on net, and that was by Torres, the new boy, who looked really good. So yeah, I mean we've got to get things going a little bit quicker. But overall, not really a lot.
But Mike, hold on. There's a little more bad than that. And let me, I don't want to say that this is terrible, but Facundo Torres is their new huge signing, their 21-year-old superstar. And look, it's obvious that he's an incredible talent, but he really wasn't aggressive in this game. I mean, he has the skills to really press the pace, to make sure that Orlando City is attacking. And really until the end of the game, until he made a couple of runs in the box, I didn't really see that. So, I mean, if he's going to dictate kind of the flow of the game from that winger position and floating into centrally, I mean, he needs to do a better job of that.
I totally agree. But I'm going to chalk it up to inexperience and
Sure.
new league. I think that I was going to play a huge part of it. I would think I would have been more surprised if he would have gotten off to a flying start, to be honest with you. Yeah, I would have liked to see more. But yeah, he's got a lot to live up to. So I'm going to give the kid a break. He's only 21 because it was the Pato game. This was all about the duck, and that's what it means in Portuguese. It's the duck. All right, this is literally a guy that I've been watching forever since he was 18 and he came to AC Milan. Look, he got hurt in the very first game of last season against Atlanta. He was forecast to be out 3 to 6 weeks after surgery in early May. He didn't return until October 20th. That's a long time to be out for a soft tissue injury. And again, it just kind of spiraled from there. His longest appearance last season was 17 minutes. He played exactly 4 matches, 1 start, and in total was 106 minutes. But again, this is what Pato needs to do because he has tremendous playmaking ability. He showed that again at AC Milan at 18. He's 32 now. It's amazing that how quick time really does go. He made some amazing well-timed runs into the box. He dragged defenders out of the way, allowed his teammates to find open space. He involved his teammates with smart passes, and he was active. I mean, that's all you can really ask from Pato. Whether or not he's going to score goals, yeah, we need goals. Orlando City has lost their entire top front 3 from last year. They're starting 3. So Pato has to be healthy. But he had some really good headers. A couple misses that were not totally awful, we'll say. He was rusty. You still got to work with that connectivity, that build-up play. It's all in its infancy. But Pato, he got on the end of a 49th minute Rouen cross that he swept right past the Montreal goalkeeper, Sebastian Breza. You could just see, and I loved it. There was just this display of relief and joy over the former Brazilian national's face. Well, it wasn't a pretty goal. He was at the right place at the right time. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it anything more than that. But it was such a relief because this man has had nothing but injuries since he left Milan, and he went to Chelsea briefly, and he was playing in Brazil, and it just seems like he's made of glass, and that's kind of what we called him, as the glass man here in Orlando. But again, he's got so much potential. Pato's goal snapped a 244-minute opening day scoring drought by Orlando City, dates back to the 75th minute in 2019 against your NYCFC. Look, I'm not going to get my hopes up too high. Okay, he's burned me one too many times.
Yes.
But again, if he can stay healthy, which is a big if, and he can put a couple balls in the back of the net, he's well worth a 1-year deal at $200,000. Because of his pedigree, because of where he's came from. But the big thing is that Orlando City brought in a kid, Chara from Rapid Vienna, in the Austrian top flight. He's a true number 9. So what does that mean for him? He's a DP. So you did not sign him to come, to necessarily come off the bench, which is what he did in the first match. So Pato is not going to be guaranteed our starting spot, especially for one season. So again, we'll see. Pato, does he go to the wing? Do they play 2 up top? What's going to happen? Oscar Pereira, the manager's got a lot to figure out, but it was a good start. Chara came off the bench, looked good. So overall, I'm happy. I didn't love the way, the formation was starting to set out the game with the kid, the 22-year-old Pereira, who was a U.S. national player. He was a little soft, and that's why the other Pereira, substituted Junior Urso, the Brazilian. The guy's just a workman. He's a horse. He came in, and he helped solidify the midfield. He's just really good. And then he set up the whole thing with the 59th minute with the Benji Michel goal, stole the ball off a goal kick, was that Urso. So I expect big things this year from a guy like Michel too, who's been in a couple of U.S. men's national team camps. I think he can play at all top of the 3 positions across the front line. And again, he scored a goal. He had an amazing back flip. That scares me every time players do those things. Please don't get hurt. We've got enough of problems with that. We just talked about Pato. And even Pato said he expects big things from this kid, especially with the U.S. men's national team. Overall, Benji Michel had 23 touches on the left side, completed 92.3 of his 13 passes. I'm happy, Tim. I'm happy. What more can I ask for?
You should be. I mean, that's, it was. Listen, Michel and Torres are incredibly encouraging for the long-term future of Orlando City. But it's going to come down this year to Pato. I mean, if he can stay healthy, you look in MLS, if you look how important it is to have a really skilled veteran with European experience up top, I mean, that makes a huge difference. We'll talk about Chicharito in a few minutes. We'll talk about Vela after that. If you have that guy, you have a leg up on a lot of these teams in the MLS. And Pato can be that guy if he can stay healthy. I mean, I feel like that's his middle name is, if he can stay healthy, Pato, because he really hasn't shown it. And like you said, we've been watching this guy for a decade now. I mean, I told you this offline. He was the young striker I used to buy in FIFA 10 or 11 and bring him over to my beloved Manchester City and develop him into a superstar. And luckily he stayed healthy on the video game most times, but in real life, yes, exactly. They didn't know yet. They didn't realize what was going to happen to him. But he just needs to stay healthy, and that's what 2021. That is the kind of lever that will change what Orlando City is able to do in 2021. Because if he performs like that, and the younger guys start growing into their roles better, I mean, I think this is a playoff club for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, at 32 is not an old man by any stretch, especially in the MLS world. Where we've got, the likes of potentially a Sergio Ramos at 36 potentially coming, and, Hector Herrera, who just signed with the Houston Dynamo, who's coming, and he's going to be 32. So, Pato's got a lot to give. And, he's never going to recapture, obviously, what he once was when that famous Champions League match from Milan where he just bolted through the middle of the pitch and just ran away from everyone. It was just, amazing. And, hopefully he can recapture some of what he was. He was the man of the match. He put in a great effort. And again, his most important aspect is going to be link-up play and making everybody better around him. He's a veteran. He needs to do that. So, yeah, I expect great things. I really do. I hope for the best because he's a likable guy. He is a leader. That's exactly what Orlando City needs. And again, at 32, there's still a lot that he has to offer.
Yeah, all right. So let's move on to the second game of the week here, New England Revolution and Portland Timbers. It was a 2-2 draw between two playoff teams from last year in a driving rainstorm. Mike, what are your takeaways from that game?
There was many instances where, for whatever reason, the Revs defenders, they just failed to track their runs back. And I was really surprised because the back line didn't really properly hold the offside line. Again, it's too early to panic about, the Revs defense, especially with Matt Turner not playing, Henry Kessler not playing, they had minor injuries. It's something to keep an eye on. But we talked about this previously. Omar Gonzalez, shaky in the opening minutes. I know he settled down. He ended the night with some decent numbers. Josie Altidore, he got 11 minutes in the Revs debut. I don't know where this team is going. You've got the reigning league MVP in Carlos Gil, who, didn't have a great game, but he's still the reigning MVP. I think that you got a great coach in Bruce Arena. You've got opportunity. I just don't know exactly what's going to happen with them once a guy like Matt Turner leaves. And, we got to see a little bit in Earl Edwards Jr., who performed really well. Before this game, he was 1-3-1 in MLS play. Last time he actually played was 2018 in a 3-3 draw. This is a guy I'm familiar with. He played for Orlando City. I'll use the word play sparingly. He was there. He was there for a while too. 2014, the Lions drafted him out of UCLA. He's got a lot of untapped potential. He played for 4 years with Orlando City. He bounced up between OCB, which is kind of like the minor league team, played in USL. But he's going to get his shot when Turner leaves this June to go to Arsenal. So it's really going to be interesting. We're going to lose your starting keeper in the middle of your season in the hottest months. Is a guy like Earl Edwards going to be able to step in right away? He made a couple critical saves in the opening minutes of the game. And right after that, he allowed 2 goals, but he couldn't really have done anything on Chimi's bicycle kick. Just flat out. And it was great because Bruce Arena came out after the match and he said, quote, Earl can't be at fault for any of those goals. And really he couldn't. So he did an admirable job. I really was pleasantly surprised with him because losing Turner, not having him for that day was a big bust for your opening match of the season.
Yeah, Mike, most of my takeaways with this game was just ugly. It was in a rainstorm. There was no Matt Turner. The pace of the game, the style, none of it was super appealing. Frankly, I'm a little more excited to watch future Timbers games than I am to watch future Revolution games. I think as good as they're going to be, it might just be a slog to watch. It's not going to be exciting. So it wasn't my favorite type of football. But, the Leggett move was good. That was,
yeah.
Most of the talk around MLS transfers obviously are about people coming from the outside and coming into the league. But now because there's so much talent in the league, there's going to be more difference makers coming in between teams. And with Leggett coming over, I think that's going to be huge for the Revolution going forward. And then you can't say enough about Yimmi Chara's bicycle kick to steal the point. It was amazing. Chara's a 30-year-old journeyman, so he's not a young player to watch, but when you are like the Revolution and you're a playoff team looking to win the MLS Cup, that's what you need. You need veterans to step up in big spots and in big games and steal your points, and that's exactly what Chara did. So not a ton more to add because I thought it was a game I just couldn't love. But hopefully when the weather gets better, people will, both these teams will be a little more interesting to watch.
But the weather never gets better in Portland, so
that's true. That's true. It's as a Manchester fan, Manchester teams, you understand about that kind of weather and watching football there. But where the weather was beautiful and sunny, no shock, was in L.A., where the New York City Football Club, NYCFC, the defending MLS champions, my favorite team, just about half hour, 40 minutes south of where I'm recording this right now, took on the LA Galaxy, who barely missed the playoffs last year and are looking to rebound this year. The game was a 0-0 draw for 89 minutes until Chicharito stepped up, took the 3 points for LA Galaxy. I have some thoughts on how my NYCFC performed, but Mike, why don't you start us off here?
Yeah, I mean, pretty ugly game. For the most part, not what we expected from an LA Galaxy team that spent a little bit of money in the offseason and a NYCFC team that should have been flying. But there's probably a reason. Look, City spent most of the day chasing the ball and never really controlled the run of play. They didn't create chances. They placed one shot on target, despite losing just 1-0. They never really were in it. It's the worst showing they've had since September 11, 2019 in Toronto, when they also had one shot on net. But luckily that day they drew 1-1. I think that their depth is really going to be tested early in this season. They're going to play on short rest twice this month. They travel to Vancouver on Saturday, March 5th. Then they host Guatemalan side Comunicaciones FC in the CONCACAF Champions League quarterfinals in East Hartford the following Tuesday, March 8th. Then they host CF Montreal at Yankee Stadium for the home opener on Saturday, March 12th. Then they travel to Guatemala City to play Comunicaciones. It sounds like a French team on Tuesday, March 15th. And then they host the Philadelphia Union back at Yankee Stadium on Saturday, March 19th. That's 5 games in 4 different stadiums in 3 different countries in 15 days. I guess they could use it as an excuse that they're going to be, or that they're tired now, that they could be tired after. But it's also a thing that if you lose 3 of those first, 3 games in MLS play, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. So I would be a little concerned, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, that's the concern, because I'm happy to make excuses for this first game. NYCFC was down in Limon, Costa Rica, just 3 days prior to the LA Galaxy game, and they flew from New York to there to LA. They looked tired. They looked kind of out of it. In the second half, they looked very content to take the 0-0 draw. But the one thing that came from that is that coming off a championship, there's always going to be a bit of a hangover, and you saw that happen. But once Chicharito scored and put LA Galaxy, there was some brightness from NYCFC that you saw that you had to be pretty happy about. Maxi Morales ran harder in those last 3-4 minutes of stoppage time than he did the entire game, so that was interesting. And then Keaton Parks, who was the guy who turned the ball over that led to the Chicharito goal, he set up a great chance for Hebert, who is coming back from this huge knee injury, missed all last season, the veteran Brazilian. So they looked like a great team for the last 3 minutes of stoppage time. Obviously, that wasn't enough. So I wonder, Mike, do you see this as LA Galaxy really taking this game by the horns and winning it as an improved team? Or do you see this as something that NYCFC came out flat and lost the game?
I think it was a little bit of both. I honestly would have expected more from the Galaxy at home. Douglas Costa didn't really do a whole lot, wasn't super impressive. But I will say, it's good for Chicharito to score in extra time. He scored 17 goals in 20 games last year. It made him the 3rd leading scorer in the league, and he did miss some time, and that's kind of been his thing since he's come over. He was really bad in 2020, had 2 goals in 12 matches. And we've watched him for years as well. This is another guy that thrives off of confidence. So the Galaxy really need him to be at his very best if they're going to hope to get back to the playoffs, which isn't, a place that they used to be, year in and year out. So, it was a weird game. I mean, we saw that ridiculous non-call, that mugging, and when Julian Araujo grabbed Maxime Chenot by the back of the neck. I mean, you literally held him from behind. Was ruled to have taken place on a different foul, so it was committed, so there was no action taken. Still, it should have been a red card. So they go to VAR, and yet the footage is inconclusive, so there's no clear and obvious error. So I asked, what do you have to do to get a red card in this league? I mean, it was ridiculous. It was literally like an MMA takedown, and I think that, I don't know. I don't know if that got to the psyche or just made NYCFC angry. And I don't know. That should have been something done. Joe Dickerson, the referee who did nothing. I'm not really sure what game he was refereeing, because that was pretty ugly. But overall, yeah, it was a weird ending. Thank goodness it ended with the goal, because for anyone to sit there and watch that for a nothing draw would have been just brutal.
Yeah, it was a tough game, and that's the problem. There's problems with VAR around the world. So I guess maybe that shows that MLS is coming up, that they have the same ridiculous problems with VAR. But yeah, that could have changed the game. But I think, let's not get away from the fact that Chicharito was the story here. Much like Pato, I mean, he is an incredible talent who has just not produced too many times in his career. And some of it for Chicharito's injury, but a lot of it is just who knows? Is he just can't find that? Maybe it is the confidence, like you talk about. But Taylor Twellman, who was doing the color commentary on the broadcast, summed it up, and he's just like, he did nothing for 89 minutes, and then but when you have Chicharito, when you have a veteran European guy with European experience up front, obviously Chicharito's Mexican, but he has a ton of European experience, then you always have a chance in games like this. And that's kind of what the takeaway for me for the LA Galaxy was, is that, Chicharito is going to keep him in games. And he did there, Manchester United, Real Madrid, West Ham, Sevilla, he never performed up to really what these guys paid for him. And then what he could do. But he did have that 2-year stretch at Bayer Leverkusen where he led the team in scoring twice. And if Chicharito can find some of that magic for LA Galaxy, then I think there's a chance that LA Galaxy can be really good. Also, their defense has improved from last year. I thought they brought in midfielder Marky Delgado from Toronto FC, and him kind of sitting in front of those top two, the center backs, seemed to tighten up their defense a little bit. Again, you don't know how much of the defense tightening was NYCFC sleepwalking through the game. But if you're an LA Galaxy fan, you're not worried about that. You look better. You held a clean sheet. You won the game. What else can you ask for?
But are you more disappointed in who we talk about extensively, Tati Castellanos? Where was he? Was he missing in action? Did anybody get a glimpse of him? Because I certainly didn't. And for a guy who was the Golden Boot winner and has a $15 million price tag on his head and is linked to River Plate among many other places, what happened, bro?
Yeah, again, all you can say is there's a championship hangover. They were in Costa Rica. There's plenty of excuses. I mean, next game, there is no excuses. They have a full week of rest. They're ready to go. And, I understand they're playing on short rest down the line a couple times, but they should be kind of used to that by then and really kind of figure that out. So we'll see what the depth does. But, yeah, Tati needs to do something because if not, they're going to be in trouble scoring. Although Hebert does look good, and if he can come back from that knee injury, it gives him another option up top and another scoring threat. So I'm not worried yet. We'll maybe do the NYCFC panic meter as we go along here, but for right now, I'm okay with it.
Okay, that's fair. Let's hope for your sake he remembers where the goal is, but I won't press you yet on it. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But now let's get into some other games here, and we're just going to go rapid fire through our TOMAS Calientes, our hottest takes of the week. We're not going to go through all the games necessarily. So now let's go through a couple other games on the weekend. We're going to go through these rapid fire. These are our TOMAS Calientes, our hottest takes of the week. I'm going to start with my hottest take from the first game of the MLS weekend, Mike. Philadelphia Union, 1-1 draw against Minnesota United. My TOMAS Calientes from here is Alejandro Bedoya, U.S. men's national team star, is washed. He is 34 now. I mean, you can see his quality when he gets on the ball, but at 34, he just doesn't have the pace, doesn't have the stamina, doesn't have the explosion to really make a difference throughout the game. Maybe he'll have some moments of brilliance along the way, and that could be enough to help Philadelphia Union reach the playoffs, reach a top spot like they're looking for this year. But I think he's done. And if Philadelphia Union is counting on him to really kind of drive their offense this year, I think they're going to be in trouble.
I agree. My TOMAS Calientes comes from Minnesota United, who kind of sound a little like you in the excuse book about NYCFC. They seem to love a good excuse. There was two instances. First, Robin Lod on his noticeable hole in the midfield. He says, quote, just because the first game of the season and all the players and all the teams aren't in the best shape they can be, the game stretches out. The second half, there's like no midfield and you're going back and forth because it's so early in the season. What? You just talked me into a mental pretzel, my man. It gets a little worse though, because then you've got Minnesota United's manager, Adrian Heath, former Orlando City manager. And he's talking about Robin Lod. And he says, quote, I don't think people realize for 2 months he was in a forest somewhere in Finland. What? Then he goes on to say, it has not been an ideal rest and recovery for him. He's still probably not 100%. It'll take a few weeks for him. Okay, why was he in a forest? Does he live in a forest? Is he a tree elf? What is going on? Look, I get on the road you typically play for the point. But United here outplayed Philly. They really did. They should have won. They had the potential to have the game-scoring goal on a 22-yard strike, which was blocked by Andre Blake in the 93rd minute. Fantastic. So look, Heath, just come out and say that, my man. We should have won the game. Like, I am so over these excuses and these like ridiculous drawn out reasons as to why I was in a forest. Nobody knows that. How would anybody know you were in a forest?
What? Am I crazy? Lod scored the goal, didn't he? Like, what is he making all these excuses about? Like,
I'm sorry. Do all Finnish people live in forests? Like, are there no cities? I don't understand. Like, I'm sure this man has a lovely palatial home that maybe it might be in a forest, but has nothing. He doesn't live in a hole. So I'm just totally confused. But Adrian Heath, just wow. I'm sorry. Like, that's unspeakable. I don't understand where you're going with that. So ridiculous. Well, let's move on. Let's go to Austin FC versus Cincinnati. I'm going to call him Stinkinati. What is your hot take, good sir?
Well, so mine kind of involves two teams. Is Austin just absolutely beat down Cincinnati 5-0. DC United did the same to Charlotte FC 3-0. Cincinnati has played for 3 seasons in MLS. So what's their excuse? Charlotte has played now 1 game, and they actually looked okay. So while many people might think the expansion team is going to be the layup of the season, I do not. I think Cincinnati is going to be the worst team of the year. You know, Charlotte played pretty well, especially they took Austin 11-11 on shots. Nothing fell for them. They came out the gate better. They played hard for their manager Miguel Angel Ramirez. And on the flip side, Cincy was just trash. They've won 4 league games in each of the last 2 seasons. So my TOMAS Calientes here is that they only win 3 games this year. Ooh, what do you think about these two bottom feeding teams?
I think they should. I think you couldn't take the sum of both teams, put them together, and have a winning team. I think they are both awful, and I blame that on roster construction. I'll start with FC Cincinnati. They conceded at least 4 goals for the 18th time since joining MLS.
Terrible.
2 in the first 15 minutes, and that's against a team that had the league's fewest goals last season with 35, Austin. The defending in front of their new goalkeeper, Alec Khan, was useless, just flat out useless. And Khan did himself no favors by incorrectly punching out a ball from a corner that led to the second goal and allowing a famous own goal in the 5th and final score of the day. They have 14 wins in 92 games since 2019. This team just stinks. I'm sorry. Like you've got the Bengals in Cincinnati, and then that's about it. They're already on their 7th coach, if you count interim coaches, and the 3rd team president. And one of those coaches was Jan Stam, who was a European defender, was amazing. Manchester United, AC Milan. He couldn't right the ship. I think this team's going to win 4 games this year. That's what they won last year. And they'll probably go on their 8th manager by midway. They're a dumpster fire of the worst kind. Now I'm going to move on to Charlotte FC because everybody is just like waxing poetic about this team and we're going to have 75,000. We're going to set the MLS record for who cares? Like, first of all, you're playing in Bank of America Stadium, which is where the Panthers play. So congratulations. That's great, but you're not going to have that type of seating in your soccer specific stadium, which is coming in 2 years. I mean, or we'll see, because Nashville's still playing at Nissan Stadium, which is where the Titans play. So we'll see if that ever comes through. But this roster, did Stevie Wonder put it together? Because it is horrendously built. They tried to trade for Paul Arriola, who ended up going to Dallas, but they couldn't get Paul because they didn't want to part with $2 million in allocation money and other assets. That would have been a guy to sell jerseys. That would have been somebody to rally the community, even though you're going to get 75,000 in the first week. Blah. Then they come to terms with Derby County's Polish winger Kamil Józiak. Before the player picked up a lengthy injury, they decided, we're not going to go through with that. Okay. They tried again on Venezuelan winger Darwin Machis, but reports quickly emerged that the $6 million designated player contract fell apart due to legal issues in Spain. Never good. They have 1 DP player, which is actually 1 more than your favorite team, the Colorado Cronkies. And that's a man by the name of Karol Swiderski. He's still in Poland working on his work permit. Really? You couldn't do this months before? And here's my biggest problem with them, Tim. is because you want to sell jerseys and you need a focal figure to rally the squad around. You signed 35-year-old former Leicester City defender Christian
Cam Newton? Oh no,
Fuchs.
sorry.
Oh, he'd be good. He'd be good. He could actually run. He could run for days. Can't throw though. But anyway, Christian Fuchs, who last year played for the Charlotte Independents in the USL. So he's not coming off a year in which he played EPL. He played in the USL. I can't with these moral victories. I can't with we've got nice black and blue kits. I can't with we've waited 2 years for this, because you know what? You're winning 2 games this year. 2 games. And I think they're the worst team in the MLS when everything is said and done.
So that's it. So for these 2 teams, I have Cincinnati winning 3 games, and I have Charlotte doing better than them. You have Charlotte winning 2 games, Cincinnati winning 4. So let's set the over/under at 3.5 for both these teams, and we'll make a little side bet, see who comes up on top at the end of the year. Now, moving on to the next game. Now, we did before we officially started the MLS Soccer Show podcast, we did a little MLS preview for the year, and I decided this was the year of Stan Kroenke. His LA Rams, his Arsenal, all his teams are doing. His Nuggets are really in the mix. They're all doing well. So I said Colorado Rapids are my Western Conference pick to make the MLS Cup. After 90 minutes of soccer, I am done. I am off that pick. I'm changing my MLS Finals pick. I'll tell you who it is in a minute, but I can't stand Colorado. They're terrible. The Colorado Cronkies, as Mike called them, is no longer my pick. That is my Tomas Calientes about the Rapids.
I literally told Tim this. I'm sorry. You're set a huge letdown. It's early. I'll give them that, but they look so bad. I mean, 2022 could not have started any worse for the Rapids. They followed up a CONCACAF Champions League midweek ouster on penalties, albeit none of the 5 MLS clubs that played midweek actually picked up a win on the weekend. So, maybe NYCFC can, feel better about that. But it was just awful. It was just a really poor performance. They looked like they didn't even want to be there. And now they play Atlanta United, who are 3-0 versus the Rapids. They've yet to register a goal against the Eastern Conference side, and they've conceded 5 against Atlanta. 3 of those were in the previous match in Colorado, and now you're going to Atlanta. I know it's a different side, different time, but from where this team was last year to where they are now, they're going to be in that bottom. They may be one of the worst teams in the league, not quite as bad as the previous 2 we just spoke about, but what really disappointing. So, Kroenke, your luck is run out, my man.
That's right. These guys broke my heart 1 game in. So I need a new Western Conference pick to make the MLS Cup. And that is the most newly minted Western Conference team, Nashville SC. Mm-hmm. They took a 1-0 victory over the Seattle Sounders in week 1. They're my pick. Here's the deal, Mike. In all sports, defense wins championships. We all know that. Nobody has a better defense with our man Walker Zimmerman and Nashville. They're going to win ugly. The Seattle Sounders manager came out after the game and said, look, they had 1 chance all game and they scored. That's what happened. That's why we lost. What can you do? Yep. And I see a lot of interviews like that for Nashville opponents in the coming days, weeks, and months here. They're not going to do it pretty. It's going to be ugly. But that defense is a championship defense. And so they are my new pick to face NYCFC in the MLS Cup come November 5th, I believe it is.
And by next week, Tim will probably have a 3rd new pick for the MLS West.
Strong chance. Yep.
No, Nashville looked great. They really did. And anybody that knows us knows that we are the biggest lovers. Can I say that about?
No,
can I say that about? Is that weird? It's a little weird. Okay, he's a good-looking man and he's fantastic at what he does. You leave me alone. And he is the backbone of the U.S. men's national team. So I am rooting hard for those guys dressed in hot yellow. But anyway, Seattle, you are my hot take. You are not getting out of the first round of the playoffs unless Jordan Morris loses about 15 pounds. We talked
bloated Jordan Morris. Is that your official nickname?
Yeah, he's getting the heat for me this week. You're looking a little bit pudgy, a little bit bloated. We talked about this when you came back for the U.S. men's national team. I'm rooting for you. I like the kid. I think at 28, he's still got a lot to offer. But Raul Ruidiaz, Jordan Morris, you guys combined for 33 touches, 1 shot, 0 dribbles, and only 2 actions inside the penalty area in 119 combined minutes. Also struggled to get the ball out of their zone in 30 minutes. They couldn't control the midfield. It took 87 minutes to get a ball on net. I complained about Orlando City taking 20 minutes to start this show. It took you guys 87 minutes. So you know what? I owe Orlando City an apology. Okay, I am just greedy, clearly, because Seattle must have been okay with maybe we'll just get a 0-0 draw. That was pathetic. And you know what? I guess I'll just take a page out of Adrian Heath's book and just say that most of their guys were in a Finnish log cabin with a gas
forest,
oven. Yeah, a forest. So pretty bad. You should be very ashamed of your showing, and it can only go up from here.
All right, that's all right. So we'll see how that plays out. Right now, those are our Tomas Calientes, our hot takes for the week. But we're not the only ones on this podcast with a hot take. We are going to do a segment called Kicking and Screaming, where me and Mike drag our producer, Andrew Kula, kicking and screaming into soccer fandom. And so Andrew's going to offer some hot takes. And just know, I think Andrew's fandom right now can be summed up by paraphrasing the great Ted Lasso, saying you could fill up 2 internets with what Andrew doesn't know about football. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have some hot takes about it. Andrew, tell us what your takeaways were from week 1 of the MLS season.
That's right. These are completely uneducated hot takes, but let's go through them anyhow, because I do feel strongly about what I'm about to say.
Obviously.
So, first of all, this guy.
You already forgot.
This is going swimmingly. Okay. Who's I want to make sure I'm saying this guy's name right. Is it Carlos Vela with LAFC?
Close. Vela.
He is awesome. Why have I never heard about this guy? Is he like the best player in MLS?
2 years ago he was. Yeah, he was actually the MVP. He scored over 30 goals, had like over 11 assists. Yeah, 2 years ago he was, and the LAFC team choked hard in the playoffs. But yeah, he played in Europe. He played in La Liga. He played for a number of teams. Actually, people thought he was, what was he, like 28 when he came, 29 when he came over to MLS? People thought he was coming here too early, that he still had a lot to offer. But he's still a big part of the Mexican national team. So, they're going to need him in a World Cup year to shine like he did, because that hat trick was amazing. And as we all know, whose pick was it to win the Western Conference? Mine, LAFC. And I'm not getting off of that, Tim.
All right, that's good. Yeah, Carlos Vela, very good. That's he played great. I mean, he's 33, so we'll see if he can keep it up all year. But Andrew, very good with your first hot take. What else you got?
Yeah, thank you. All right, well, here, this hot take's even spicier. So we're talking about LAFC, right? And if I'm correct, there's also another team in LA, the Galaxy.
That's right. We just spent 15 minutes talking about them. So yeah, thanks for listening to the show.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Why are there 2 soccer teams in LA? I hate 2 teams in general in the same city, but I mean, I hope just like you guys that MLS blows up, but they're already jumping the gun and having 2 teams in one city. That just doesn't make sense to me.
All right. So I don't know if we should tell him this, Mike, but technically there's also 2 teams in New York, the New York, New Jersey Red Bulls, who do play in New Jersey. So there's actually 2 cities with double teams. But yeah, LA has a thriving soccer fandom, and they can support 2 teams. Okay. So I think I get it. The 2 teams in general is can be a little much, but I mean, if you saw either the Galaxy crowd was fantastic, and when the LAFC when their fans come out in earnest, they're great too. So I get it, but it's here to stay because both those teams are 2 of the top in MLS.
Okay, fine. Yeah. I guess I can allow it. All right.
Yeah, the Galaxy play in the heart of downtown. The LAFC plays in the heart of downtown LA, like very closest to the old Staples Center. I will not call it. Yeah, I will not play it.
Arena.
I'm not calling it that. That's terrible. And the Galaxy play like 30 minutes outside LA. At what are they called now? Dignity Health Arena. It used to be StubHub Center. So a lot of people in LA, being that I lived there for many years, don't even consider them like an LA team. It's weird. It's very divided. Like you're one fan or the other. You don't like both. Well, but the thing is that the Galaxy are one of the original teams. 1996. They have been around. They have 5 titles, which is the most in MLS. They've had David Beckham. They've had Landon Donovan. So they are the top echelon of MLS. That's who teams strive to be. Things have changed, obviously, but stars still want to go there. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Douglas Costa. Now we've already said that it looks like Sergio Ramos may be coming from PSG because that has been a debacle since he have signed there. So players still want to come to LA. And it's not always LAFC. There's still a potential for players going to the original, the OG, the original Galaxy.
All right, Andrew, one more. You got one more hot take for us today?
All right, I've got one more. This is about kits, okay? So I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts. I think there's far too many pale blues right now. I mean, I was going through the kits, and it seemed like almost everyone was a pale blue or a white, and they got to be a little bit more creative. So I found a couple that I did like. Really liked the Portland Timbers. That dark green was really nice. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen it. I guess I have a West Coast thing going. The Seattle Sounders, their second jersey is like this purple color. Really nice. I really like that. So too many pale blues, but I like the teams that kind of get off that. And speaking of New York, I really like New York's jersey, the Red Bull one. That's pretty cool.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. The cool thing about Seattle is that the purple jersey you're referencing is in homage to Jimi Hendrix. You don't know Jimmy? That is because he was from Seattle. If you know Jimmy, you can't hear Jimmy. So that's that. If you like the green Portland, you should see the one they wore in the first match, which is has roses on it for the Rose City. I think that one's awesome. There's a couple really great kits this year. And then who did he just mention? He got me off track. I started thinking about Jimi Hendrix. Oh, and then you mentioned that the Red Bulls. I mean, I have a problem with the Bulls. I just think of the energy drink and it kind of makes me vomit. But I mean, yeah, that's fine. I mean, there's a couple other really good ones, but I like your take about Seattle. I think that that's a great one. And then Portland, classic green and yellow. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, Tim, are those Red Bulls? Are those Red Bulls? Are they your rival?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, they're.
Well, they call it the Hudson River Derby. I mean,
it's the Hudson River Derby. Again, it's very similar to the LA teams. The Red Bulls were one of the original teams in the MLS, and they played. Now they play out in New Jersey though, and they're not as the NYCFC plays in the Yankee Stadium, and they've just been better the last couple of years. So they're a team that more people are getting behind. But yes, I guess they are the rivals. And but I actually kind of like their kits too. So I think this year has been cut me wrong, but this is like a big redesign year, right, for all these kits, and they're doing a very city-centric thing, which has been pretty cool. I thought the gray, I know it was a little bit pale blue, but the gray and blue for Minnesota United was very cool as well.
Yeah. MLS they do it differently than teams in Europe. Every 2 years they'll switch a kit. So like for this year, Orlando City's is the road. So we're wearing the same purple from last year. We've got the new road, the sunburst. I don't know if I'm sold on it yet. I don't know if I'm going to purchase it. We'll see what's going to happen. I got to find a player first that I don't have. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, I think it's a great way for MLS to market themselves. I like that they're bringing in kind of the LAFC's got the Art Deco thing going on all over the kit. If you go to downtown LA, it's very inspired by the 40s and the 50s type of architecture. Those are a lot of cool things. I don't know if I get the NYCFC lightning bolt. I mean, I lived in New York for a long time too. I mean, there's lightning, but it's not like you're known
summer thunderstorms. I mean, I don't know. I have to look into why they did that, but
I mean, cool. little interesting, But yeah, I mean, some of them are like classic clean. Like the Galaxy's got the little ribbed Galaxies on the collar cuff, and New England's kind of blasé, but. Yeah, I mean, I get mad sometimes at Adidas because I feel like even Nike, to a certain extent, they do templates. Like, hey, we're just going to come up with this template. We're going to use it for clubs. We're even going to use it in the World Cup, and they do that. But so it was nice to see a little bit of imagination used this year. And one thing that I read, which not necessarily MLS, but I would love to see it instituted, is Borussia Dortmund of the Bundesliga has actually had a contest, and they asked fans to send in their best potential mock-ups of uniforms, and they're going to pick one, and they're going to wear it next year. And that's awesome because they were fire. These jerseys were great. I mean, traditionally black and yellow, you can't go wrong, but then they had the neon green from, the days of yore, which I'm not a huge fan of. Yeah, but I just like that they're giving fans an opportunity to design it. And a lot of fans even use the city, cityscape, city center in the design. And that's cool. I mean, and for a league like the MLS that wants to do grassroots marketing and has these great supporter groups I think that would just be a way to totally get them involved further. So yeah, man, Andrew, I'll talk kids with you all day because I love soccer jerseys. I think it's just a self-expression, and you can wear it out to dinner because it's sometimes has a collar on it.
It's
That's
classy.
Right. Classy stuff. Absolutely. Andrew, thank you very much. That kicking and screaming, I think we're going to drag Andrew kicking and screaming into football fandom. He is already on his way. So we got 2 more quick segments before we wrap up here. We're going to go with potent quotables, the quote of the week. And I will start with that. This one comes from Santi Auna, who is as close as you can get to a European football insider, maybe an Adam Schefter type. This comes from footmercado.net. And the translation is from French to English. It was written in French, so excuse some of the interesting language at the end. But he writes, a failed bet. This is the current summary of Sergio Ramos' move to Paris Saint-Germain. His presentation with great fanfare alongside Messi, Donnarumma, Wijnaldum, and Hakimi at the start of the season at Parc des Princes seems far away and necessarily inadequate in view of the 5 small appearances made in a Parisian jersey. The 35-year-old Spanish international continues to decide on social networks by flipping through his physical work to find the pitch. Basically what he's saying is that Sergio Ramos is a major flop at PSG, and he's just showing off on social media so people think he's still good while he is washed. But the important part of this article is it goes on to say that the LA Galaxy have interest and have reached out to the Spanish star. However, the article stopped short of saying that Ramos has any interest in the MLS at all. So, Mike, I ask you this. Is it good or bad for the MLS if Ramos comes over? Ramos, of course, Spanish national, Real Madrid superstar, one of the greatest defenders of all time. Do you want to see him in an LA Galaxy kit as soon as the midseason transfer window here in MLS?
Absolutely. I mean, again, the problem with the Galaxy is that they already have 3 designated players. So they'd have to, use their TAM and their GAM and, their Regina phalanges, and they'd have to figure out who they're going to buy.
You can finesse that, as Miami has shown. You can,
I mean, you can figure it out. There's money you can hush money, but absolutely. I mean, look, there's a reason that Real Madrid didn't bring it back a club legend. There's a reason why. This guy has the most caps for the Spanish national team ever. He's a legend. He is great. Is he washed? I mean, considering what he was, yeah. But again, you can come to the MLS because he is such a smart player. He is still in great physical shape. We don't know how that's going to translate on the pitch, but if you can get him at the right price, and again, there is a salary cap in structure in the MLS. It's different. You can only give these guys so much money. So if he's willing and able, he's going to sell jerseys. He's going to put butts in seats. I would love to see him if Galaxy come play Orlando, because again, you only get to see these players every so often. I mean, I still talk about who I saw. I went to go see Wayne Rooney when he was with DC United, and I saw Zlatan when he was with the Galaxy, because these are legends of the game. So if I get a chance, sure. I mean, even if it doesn't work, and you can fit him in salary wise, why not? I mean, again, he could be the difference. A healthy Sergio Ramos could be the difference of putting a team like this not only in the playoffs, but through the playoffs and potentially for an MLS Cup.
Yeah, and if Ramos wants to play, I mean, you might be able to figure it out salary-wise, because he has made a ton of money. I don't have his earnings in front of me, but he's made a ton of money through his career. So if it's more about just getting on the pitch at this point and getting some run and starting as a defender, that's not going to happen at PSG. So MLS might be his chance. Mike, let's hear your quote of the week. This one coming from the aforementioned Charlotte FC manager, Miguel Angel Ramirez.
Yeah, well, I love Miguel Angel Ramirez for his just total transparency, because ahead of their inaugural match last week, he famously lamented his roster's current shortage of top-tier attacking menace prior to the season, saying, quote, "We need to have something else to be more competitive. Let's wait and see how the roster building finishes." Okay, that's fair. When asked in Spanish, his native language.
This is where it gets fun.
This is what I love. When he asked in Spanish of what he should expect of his new squad, this is good. He says, quote, "When we finish that, I will answer that question and tell you how I see things. Right now, we're screwed." End quote. I mean, that's great. Fantastic. I mean, obviously he was more comfortable saying it in Spanish, or, maybe he just figured that no one would Google translate it, but that's awesome. I mean, yeah, like I said, your roster is terrible. You got one DP who's in Poland. It's a total mess. So I love the fact that he just let it have it, and that's what we need more of. We need more of that, and less Adrian Heath in the forest.
Yeah, and that just continues the long tradition. And what's one of the great things about soccer is that you have players from around the world. It's an international game, so they all have their own native language and hometown media. And this happens in all sports, but a lot more in football than anywhere else. When these guys give interviews in their native language to their local media, it is so much better. So much, I think your boy Antonio Conte from Tottenham just did this recently, where he was a lot more candid in his native tongue than he was with the English press. So something to keep an eye on. I'm sure more of that will pop up in potent quotables as we go along. But now we're going to move on to our final segment here. And that's just, Matt, the NFL is over. We all feel that pain. But listen, Mike, Andrew, betting on football is fun. So we are going to give you some ways to keep the good times rolling. I know betting is now legal in New York with the FanDuel and Caesars and all MGM, all that kind of stuff. So we are going to give you our picks of the week for the upcoming MLS. Put some cash down on these, see how you do. We'll go over it next week and then give you some new picks. Mike, let's start with you. What are you splashing your cash on in the MLS next week?
Well, I'm a big fan of parlays, especially when I can put down like next to no money and win a lot. So it's not necessarily the games that I've picked are not necessarily that way, but for a nice little $25 wager, it can potentially win close to $5.50. If you don't want to do a parlay, totally fair. Here's who I think have the best odds of winning. I'm taking New England laying half a goal against Dallas. Dallas, I know they got Paul Arriola. It's just not enough for me. They're going to start to spend money, but I think New England has to come back and they have to revenge that tie, that 2-2 draw they had last week. Then I'm taking Sporting Kansas City laying half a goal over Houston. Again, Houston, they don't have my man coming from Atletico Madrid just yet, and they've got a team, new ownership that's kind of curious how they're going to be set up. And Sporting Kansas City has got a nice team, so I'm taking them laying the half a point. Philly's got to come back in a big way. You bashed my man Alejandro Bedoya, so I am taking Philly laying half a point against Montreal. Montreal looked pretty weak against Orlando City. I am also taking Seattle getting half a point against RSL. RSL's a mess. They got rid of their best player. Again, I'm going to put that onus on Jordan Morris. He needs to get his act together, and I think that they'll rebound nicely. I'm not afraid of laying half a goal there. I am taking the over 2.5. This is something I do in football, not necessarily in soccer, but I am taking over 2.5 goals with LAFC in Portland. We saw Vela get a hat trick. That's obviously Andrew's favorite new player. We saw Portland's 2-2. So I think the opportunity to score over 2.5 goals is really, really good here. It's only at -181, so you're not going to make a ton of money. But I think if you put it in a parlay, you've got a real good chance. And then the slam dunk easiest bet of the week for me is Galaxy laying half a goal plus 106 in Charlotte. I don't care if you got 100,000 people there. I don't care if Cam Newton is running the ball up the middle. The Galaxy are going to win at least by 2 goals. So take the Galaxy getting half a goal in Charlotte and send me part of the proceeds.
There you go. That sounds fair. I have a parlay myself. I did a 4-leg money line parlay, and the odds are changing. So I feel kind of good about this, except for the big line one that makes me a little nervous. But I have Orlando City over Chicago plus 250, DC United over Cincinnati plus 110, LA Galaxy over Charlotte, as you said, plus 115, and Philadelphia over Montreal plus 195. That jumps up to plus 45.61, which means on a $10 bet you can win $450. That's what I got it in at. I'd have to look, but it's going to be similar because the DC United game is down to plus 100. The LA Galaxy line is down to, I think, plus 105. But the Orlando City one is now plus 110 or 310. So that one's money's coming in on Chicago on that one. But to take a money line parlay, you'll still do it. Put down a $10 bet, put down a $20 bet, win 450, win 900. If Orlando City takes care of Chicago, DC United and the Galaxy take care of Cincinnati and Charlotte, and Philadelphia takes care of Montreal. So that's my football. Betting on football is fun. Bet of the week. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the MLS Soccer Show. Mike, if people enjoyed this, tell them our social media handles. And, of course, as always, if people hated it, tell them Andrew's social media handle so they can send all their complaints to our producer.
Yes. Please go all your social media platforms, your favorite Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's at MLSOCCER show. So MLS, or let's say it this way,
ML Soccer Show, maybe is
probably easier for the people at home. ML Soccer Show. And then please, you get a chance, go on your favorite podcast network. So either Apple Podcasts, Spotify, give us a 5-star review, review, tell us what you like, tell us what you want to hear more of, favorite segment, something we could do. Look out for our graphics on social too. There's a lot of cool things that we're trying to do. A lot of initiatives. We want to get you guys involved. We want to hear from you. There's going to be upcoming segments where we obviously get you involved. And then the big thing is our YouTube channel. So go on, hit that bell. Tells you when all the notifications are coming for brand new shows. Make sure you subscribe. And again, we love to interact with you guys. So leave a comment. We'll keep this conversation going. We want you to be a part of the MLS Soccer Show because we like soccer so much. We've put it twice in the title. And I think that's probably going to become the tagline for the show because it's just fantastic. If you don't like us, it's Andrew Kula on Twitter. He loves to bicker. So you guys just have at it with him because he sounds really nice on this show, but he's an angry, angry elf.
Maybe in the forest of Finland somewhere. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.